So in a previous video, I talked about doing the AEM upgrade on my Sprinter here, and I got a lot of questions on, how was my gas mileage afterwards. I'll throw the video at the end of this, you can watch it. But with fuel prices going to where they're at right now, I found a product in Germany called the RaceChip, and FedEx just showed up and dropped it off. And so we're gonna throw this on Oliver. We're doing a long trip down to Florida. We're in Northern Virginia and back, and I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to find out whether or not RaceChip will actually give us 3 or 4 miles per gallon more fuel efficiency. Right now we're getting, we've got an average of about 14.2 miles to the gallon over the last 150,000 miles, so I have a lot of data to compare it against. This isn't really gonna be an installation video, it's more of kind of a review. So I'm gonna hop in and we're gonna install the RaceChip and see how it goes. Okay, so we're going to finish up the installation of the RaceChip, but I've got a couple things I want to say. First off, the connector on the Mercedes that goes to the common fuel rail is in the very, very back. And that's where the common rail connector is. And you can see I've brought the harness over and then I've zip tied it right there. It was a bear to get out, and I may have damaged mine. So I actually had to take it to a friend of mine who works at Mercedes, and they verified that the connector was damaged. Don't know if I did it or not. So I had to replace the fuel rail. So lesson learned, if you're not familiar on how to take that connector off, definitely get somebody to do it for you. If not, it's going to be a $1,695 lesson. Let's go ahead and finish this this installation. Oh, the second point is that you can drive it keeping this on. So you can have the harness installed and just leave this on, and you can drive the vehicle just fine. So you can drive it without the RaceChip, which is great to know. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish zip tying this to the back, and we're going to fire it up and make sure that the RaceChip is registering, and then we're going to go on a couple of long trips. It'll take me about, I'm going to get about 30 days of data before I report back to you all how this went. There won't be 30 days elapsed time on this because it'll be part of this video. No check engine lights or anything like that, so that's a good start.
Sick of doing chores? There's no fun by turning them into rituals. Host of What's Essential, Brent McEwen taught us that by finding enjoyment in the activities.
So on our way down, we did not get any better fuel mileage. So I sent RaceChip an email and said, hey, do I need to cycle through a couple tanks of gas? Does it take? And they're like, no. The thing that I did wrong is I had it in eco mode. And what they said was that I needed to go into a number 7, and they said that's the one that I actually need to be using. So race mode, fine tune, then go to 7, and we will see if that changes our fuel mileage on the way back. We decided to go ahead and add another 1,000 miles to the RaceChip just to get more data, just so we can make a firm decision. Anecdotally speaking, I don't think it's helped at all. However, we have run into 2 issues. On this trip, I've received 2 error codes on the engine. P0087, which is a temperature sensor on the amount of air intake. Could that be the RaceChip? I don't know. I'm not going to concern myself with that one. The second one we got this morning was a P0097. Well, 97 is actually a sensor on the fuel rail, and it determines whether or not the fuel pressure on the fuel rail is above or below specs. And in the case of a 0097, it's below spec. To me, that could absolutely be the RaceChip because it controls the amount of fuel in the fuel rail. So given the information that I received from a mechanic saying that we should never use a fuel monitoring system or a enhancing system on a Sprinter, and given that we've now seen 2 codes and it doesn't look like the RaceChip has done anything, I'm going to go ahead and shut the RaceChip off completely now. I don't want to take a chance of damaging the fuel system in the Sprinter. Okay, well, we ended up finishing up with our little analysis of the RaceChip. A couple real quick things. We had like I said earlier, 150,000 miles of data without the RaceChip, and we put another 3,500 miles on it. So in order to figure out is it worthwhile or not, my wife Dana ran the numbers.
So I took the data, divided it into two groups, pre-chip, post-chip, and I calculated the average miles per gallon. The average miles per gallon with the RaceChip was 13.88, and without the RaceChip was 13.53. Now you might say, well, gosh, those are different, but I'm an economist, and using statistics, it tells us something different. So even though the numbers seem slightly different, statistically, they are the same. So the RaceChip didn't make any difference to our miles per gallon.
So just a real quick wrap up. So we really didn't have any change in fuel mileage. The installation on the Sprinter was a little more difficult than I anticipated. Don't know if I broke the rail or not. So that was about a $2,100 experience between $500 for RaceChip, $1,600 for the fuel rail to actually see if it's going to save us any money on fuel costs. So if you've had a different experience with a Sprinter and a RaceChip, please make comments below. If you find this video of anything of value, just hit the like button, and we'll move on to our next project.